Thank you for being here this morning. How would you stated that you brought up the issue of the unused or the uninvestigated rape kits, and I want to know how passing this would take care of that problem in your mind. Go ahead, Dr. Kennedy.
Thank you. Thank you, committee members. What we're looking at is the ability to shift our cultural norms, to say that women are important, to say that women matter. This is changing the culture, the entire way that the presence of women become validated in terms of every aspect of our existence, economic, civil, legal, and so on. So it may not address that issue from the outset, but what it does is it presents kind of a shift in what perhaps we can call more broadly customary law that will say women are indeed equal. We must begin to acknowledge the issues that are as critically important for women as for men.
Comment?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, to Representative Kunish-Pudin. My question centers around, you use the word gender in your amendment, and everything you've had, all your testifiers are testifying in favor of women's rights. Now, last year, we had one of our members who's no longer here testifying was on the floor and said there are 73 different genders. The Department of Motor Vehicles has us down as gender fluid. So my question is, why did you choose to use the word gender as opposed to sex?
Go ahead, Representative. Thank you, Madam Chair. I think you explained that in this day and age, I think the word gender and sex can be used intermixed. Not everybody identifies traditionally as we have in the past as a male or female, and there are many different identifications, and we want to be inclusive of all folks because the ERA doesn't just provide protection for women or females. It provides protections for men and whatever gender you identify yourself as. And so we use this word to be as inclusive of our population as we can. Representative Barr.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Could I offer the A19 amendment, please?
I think we're going to go ahead and do more questions. Okay. Yep, and we'll hear.
Question for the bill author. Is gender defined anywhere in state statute that you're aware of?
Representative. You know, I do not know that answer. I asked that question. Somebody asked me that question yesterday, and I haven't found it. And so I can't tell you if that is the case or not. Representative Lucero.
I would ask that question to research if they know if gender is defined.
Ms. Bowen.
Chair and members, as I don't know the definition, there may be one in some area of statute, but the Minnesota Human Rights Act does not use the term gender as a defined term, so I don't know that there is one. There is the term gender identity that's sort of used in the as a protected class in the Human Rights Act, but the term gender, as far as I know, I don't know the definition.
Representative Lucero.
The same question would be to the definition of sex. Does that exist in current statute?
Ms. Mullen.
Chair and members, the definition of sex is a term that's used in statute. It's in the Human Rights Act and other statutes as well. What's that?
Is it defined? How's it defined?
Oh, how's it defined?
Okay, well, she's looking that up. Did you have another question?
I do. Thank you,
okay.
And so while that's being looked up, I guess the question.
Okay.
And so while that's being looked up, I guess the question becomes, if gender isn't defined, do you not believe it's important to define that so the Minnesota citizens, when voting on this, would potentially have a better idea of what it actually is that they're voting for?
Go ahead, Representative. Thank you, Madam Chair. Maybe we should work on a definition, but my working definition for gender is to me, gender is a reflection of who you see yourself as, whether it's male, female, trans, whatever it is, that's who you are. And if that's how you identify yourself as your gender, then who am I to say that is incorrect or not?
Representative Lucero.
Well, words mean things.
Mhm.
Statutes mean things, obviously. And so in order to remove ambiguity, we should be clear in what the definitions of words are. And if there isn't a statute, and that might be your definition, but that might not be the definition of voters. So I think it's incumbent upon us, and you as the bill author, if we're going to move forward with this, to define the terms as they are used, as the language that you're using. So, Madam Chair, I would encourage
that exists right now that was created so that one specific group of people always get to benefit. And we know what that group of people is right now. And so this issue is in front of us. This is the issue that we should be voting on. And this is what we have to do in order to dismantle systems and rebuild them. And so we're on the side of justice. We should remember what we're either choosing to uphold in the systems that oppress certain groups of people, or what it is that we're choosing to dismantle so we can rebuild this. And so I didn't have as much of a question, but more of just that. I feel really passionate about this. I needed to say something. So
Thank you, Representative Hurd. Chair. Let's see, Representative Grossel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Chair Considine, well, this may sound pretty nice and straightforward. This is not just about male and female, and heads us down a slippery slope when determining how to define gender. So my question, I have a question for Representative Podine.
Go ahead.
Okay. Representative, why select the word gender and not just sex? To just not discriminate based on sex, like the proposed federal ERA.
Go ahead, Representative. I think we've had this question before.
Well, I guess I don't understand why folks are getting all bent out of shape on a word, sex or gender. I think we, just as Chair Muller explained, there are words that we implicitly understand. And I don't know when you hear that word gender, if it confuses you with the word sex. But gender, again, in this day and age, I kind of think it's like we're bringing everybody up to date on the current verbiage, the inclusive verbiage around folks who identify in so many different ways. Not everybody identifies through sex, and I think historically sex meant either male or female. Well, in this day and age, and there are many people that identify in different ways. And rather than be exclusive or inclusive, we're trying to be inclusive of everyone in this. I think we've said time and time again that this is not just something to support women or give women equal rights, but it also has equal rights around men as well, and any of those folks that identify in different ways. And so the use of the word gender is the contemporary word for sex. And I really think that if we all look at it, gender means sex, sex means gender, and there are many other words if we looked up in the encyclopedia for synonyms that we would find other words that we would want to use. But for this, we chose the word gender.
Representative Grossel.
So I guess your first speaker came up and was talking about equal rights for women.
Mm-hmm.
Women, that is your sex, and my sex is male. I guess I'm just not clear as to why you need to go with gender. If this is an equal rights ERA for equal rights for women, as stated by your first speaker, why not just put sex in there?
Representative, or it looks like one of your testifiers might have a response for that. Yes, come forward, Dr. Kennedy.
Well, before they do, I guess I'm just confused why you're hung up on a word such as gender and what big of a difference it makes. But, men, this bill, if this amendment goes into our Constitution, men will also benefit from the principle of gender equity, especially when it comes to well, men and anybody in Minnesota, because when it comes to their private lives and their roles in families, their role in society, we don't need to define whether you are a male or a female, just as your member said, why should we have to identify in a political way? There's no need to identify. So gender is an all-inclusive, encompassing word that includes everyone in our society.
Representative Grassley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Representative. I look at this and, I look at the abortion issue and just like is this the conversation that this is part of the abortion issue is part of this conversation as well. People want to distance themselves from it. If this is an LGBTQ issue, then back up. This has also been an LGBTQ issue, is what you're saying? Then when you're using gender and you're using people identifying other than male or female. So with that being said, I don't agree